Hello and welcome to the MHR podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Emma.
Emma, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm okay. Well, I'm going to be honest with you this week. I'm being a bit brave. I've come in today. I've got a very bad neck.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you're watching the podcast, if you watch the video version, you'll see that I'm using the swivel chair to my advantage today. I've basically only been on a swivel chair all day.
You also have a slight hook for a hand.
Well, that's not related. That was just me. Okay, fine. Anyway, but it leads me kind of nicely into a segue onto my the topic I would like to discuss today.
What a very sad way of getting to the point.
Yeah, because whilst I'm not feeling very well, I have dragged myself in today for your own pleasure and everyone else's, so we could do this podcast on the topic of pulling a sickie.
Okay.
Have you ever pulled a sickie?
You went very Australian there.
I did.
You ever pulled a sickie?
You ever pulled a sickie?
I think I may have pulled a sickie, way back when I was
youth.
about... Yeah.
Your irresponsible youth.
I think so. So I think...
When you were a crazy teenager, you couldn't be contained.
Crazy.
You just pull a sickie every now and then.
Yeah,
like
it's an awful one to admit, but when you've been a slightly, too heavy the night before, that was times
We've
of
all
an
done it.
18-year-old.
Yeah, I don't do it now, obviously, just having that on record. But it's an interesting topic, not just because everyone knows someone who's pulled a sickie, or everyone likes to gossip about someone who's claiming they're not very well, and everyone likes to pull up their own rumours, but actually it can be quite a serious topic. It can unearth a bigger issue, and I thought that's what we could discuss today.
Okay.
So to get us started, I thought I could read you some key stats about sick and absence from last year. Put into context the impact of sickness and absenteeism in the UK workforce. How do you feel about that?
Very formal.
Well, there we go then. So would you like some headliners? This is from the Office of National Statistics as well. So these aren't just any stats. These are National Office stats. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
So did you know, Emma, right, that the sickness absence rate, the percentage of working hours lost because of sickness or injury, rose 2.6% in 2022, which is an increase of 0.4 percentage points from 2021. And that it's the highest it's been since 2004, which was 2.7. So there's an upward incline, right, last year.
To be fair, that's quite interesting because I thought that there would be, quite a serious discrepancy because of obviously COVID 2020 and 2021 being particularly bad, but to see that it's continued to rise.
Well, then you can ask another question
then.
can't you, actually? If you would have thought COVID, everyone got ill, everyone was impacted in lots of different ways, how was that recorded? And was it easily recorded because of the sudden shift to home working and the processes that had to follow rather than were in place already? Who knows?
I think in terms of tracking, I can imagine that's been pretty tough to manage.
Back to the facts, right? Did you know that an estimated 185.6 million working days were lost because of sickness or injury in 2022 alone, right? This is a record high, right? But the number of days lost per worker was 5.7. So that wasn't an increase. So on average, someone lost 5.7 days a year last year, or the year before, last year, because of being sick. But it was the highest number of hours ever to date, which is usually because people are working longer days, but also more people in the world of work.
I was just about to say, I think it's also an increase in employers. It's been a big boom, hasn't it? And I think we've discussed this previously in the podcast on the number of remote working opportunities has increased the level of ops in the workforce. So that's always... There's a balance to be had there, isn't there, when we look at these numbers? So, in relation to that, the most common reason for sickness absence was minor illness, and which is 29.3% of all occurrences that happened that year. Okay, so just minor illness. And all age groups experienced increases in their sickness rate
during 2022.
Okay.
So that was across the board. That wasn't just certain generations, all ages were feeling it. So groups with the highest rate of sickness in 2022 were women, older workers, or those with long-term health conditions, people working part-time, and people working in care, leisure, and other service occupations.
I think service occupations in particular do take a really big hit. I think, during kind of COVID season, if I can appropriately call it that, that was where it was most prevalent, you frontline workers, and they're going to be the ones that have more of the lasting impact than, say, you or I that can work in an office space but can adapt to different environments should we need to.
Yeah. So in the last 2 to 3 years, there has been a significant peak in number of days lost to sickness and an accelerated absent rate. So you can find all this out on the Office of National Statistics. It does bear in mind some COVID statistics as well. But it brings me nicely to my point, right? That's clearly, 165, what was it,
185 million.
100.6 million working hours a year for the UK alone. That's a huge impact, right? Mm-hmm. So all the more reason why it's dodgy or not very good if people are pretending to be ill when other people's are, right? So that's what I want to talk about, because it has a huge detrimental impact. So why do you think... What's your view? Why do you think people pretend to be ill?
I think this can easily be a bit of a source of gossip, can't it? In terms of, making assumptions or having thoughts as to why somebody would take a leave of absence. Yeah. So, just looking at assumptions and presumptions, if you like. The first one is, are they interviewing for another role?
Yeah.
Are they taking the day off so that they can... pursue other opportunities? Are they on holiday, for example, not wanting to use holiday days? And another thing, which I think is probably more prevalent to the conversation that we're going to have, is potentially masking something that's slightly more serious that's going on. Mm-hmm. So that could be issues within work that's resulting in them not wanting to attend. Yeah. So trying to find reasons to not attend work. Yeah. Or even things that are more serious outside of the workplace that they don't feel comfortable or ready to be able to talk about. Yeah. That I think that's more of the important thing I think we need to review. It's easy to get into your gossip trains, isn't it, as to why somebody might pull some time off. And there are some silly ones as well as to why somebody might decide to take some time off.
Some more common reasons that come up when you look into it. I've read a few articles this week trying to get some. It's actually a lot more top level, but I think we should have a bit more of an in-depth conversation about it. So the main reason apparently people pull a sickie is just because they're too tired, which is interesting when you dig into it. So it's fine to be tired, and sometimes if your motivation's there, but I think that highlights a bigger issue. If you're too tired to go into work, is that because something's not working for you? Why are you feeling too tired? Is that because your work-life balance is terrible and you know what, it's not sustainable and you need more support? Is it you're tired, or are you bored? Are you fatigued? Is it that you're just not inspired to go in anymore, so you don't want to get out of bed?
Yeah, is it an issue of disengagement with the business or with the role that you're in? Which
comes into the second point. So one of the other main reasons apparently people just pull a sick is they just can't be bothered. They don't want to. Now, I'm not saying we all want to work all the time. Obviously, if we could all be multi-millionaires and not have to work, I'm sure a lot of us would choose to do that. But there is joy to be had at work. There is, there are reasons to come in. There are things you can enjoy about work. And whilst we can understand that it's a means to an end in many respects, it's also something that you can be passionate about. So if you can't be bothered, is something going right for you in that organisation?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. With that, that's representative of there being a bigger issue, or be that personally, or be that professionally, in terms of where you're at the moment. Yeah.
The other one that comes up, apparently people pull a sickie the most because they have other plans. Which I like the idea of going, well, I know I work 9 to 5, but I just thought I'd book something in.
Charming.
But I did want to talk about this one. So you can have other plans, but it's the level of severity of them. If you're going, oh, well, I was actually going to go to a festival instead, I'll pull a sickie. That's very, very bad, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, any form of dishonesty, I think, with your organisation isn't going to do you any good. But it's what I'm quite interested in is when people choose to be dishonest about feeling unwell because they don't feel like they can communicate the real reason why they don't feel comfortable to come in. I think we can talk about that. I think it's an interesting one, and I think it's a real grey area, and it would be good to see what advice we can get from a HR perspective on how you can avoid people pulling a sickie when actually it's not about health or it's not about being disengaged. It might be a more personal issue, and there might be reasons why someone doesn't feel like they can communicate to their manager or their team that they don't feel comfortable coming in today.
I think there's two different ways in which we can look at this, isn't there? So there's the pragmatic side where we want to ensure that we've got the appropriate sickness policies in place, we've got a review system in place, so that we can get that traceability and trackability in terms of what's going on, which we'll go on to shortly. But then, as you say, you've also got that more personal side where we look at how we can build trust and confidence in relationships to be able to be very open with our employer and with our teams about anything that we may be struggling with that could therefore create an impact through absenteeism. Yeah,
and there's lots of obviously there's lots of reasons why people might feel uncomfortable. I'll give you an anecdote. When I was in year 9 at school, right? I think what would I have been, like 16, 15, 14, 15, probably, right? My mum cut my hair at home.
Ooh.
Right. Just because she wanted it, I had it very short, and she just was going to put some clippers for it, right? And I just thought nothing of it. We'll just do that. And then one day, she did it, and she dropped the clippers on the floor. She's like, "Oh, sorry, pick them up." And she picked them back up again, and she went, and the clipper wasn't on anymore, and I had a bald patch right at the top back of my head. And everything in the kitchen went silent. And then my brother laughed, and I was like, "Why are you laughing?" And my mum laughed, and then I saw it, and then I cried. And then I was petrified. We were panicking because then my mum got upset because she realised what had happened. With the laughter had stopped being funny, and it was like, "What's going on?" And if I was a full-grown adult and that had happened to me, well, one, I'd be asking why my mum still cut my hair.
That's right? A deeper issue, I think.
Yeah, but two, and I was like, I would have called in sick the next day because I would have been so embarrassed.
Mortified.
I wouldn't want people seeing my little bald patch on my head and just be and just feel very silly, right? But instead, because I was a child technically and I didn't have a choice in the matter, I got sent to school with a note going, "Andy's wearing a cap today, but he feels really awkward because he's had a..." And my mum had an accident at the hairdressers. Please, can you not ask him to take the cap? And of course, what did the teachers do? They just went, "Fowler, hat off." And I'm like,
no.
So...
Hats are not appropriate wear for work either.
But But it made me think, right? There are some things that are so embarrassing, or some things that you feel uncomfortable with for very good, just reasons, maybe not just an accidental home haircut, that are solid reasons why you might feel like, I this is personal for me, and I don't feel like I can talk to my line manager yet.
Yeah, very true.
Whether that's to do with your health, whether it's to do with personal issues, whether it's to do with your mental health, I think that HR does have a responsibility, and especially a lot of modern HR companies with HR departments think very carefully about what avenues they can create for their employees to make sure there is an open door of communication. So people aren't pulling sickies, because if you're lying to people and lying to people you work with, you can also put yourself in a very vulnerable situation because you're not allowing your work to support you.
No, it's very true. I mean, interestingly, just looking at these stats that you've pulled up on here, actually, I've just been having a look. There's actually been a reduction, quite a significant reduction, actually, a few percent of the number of people that are referencing mental health as their reason for absence. When we're openly trying to, talk about it a lot more you know, we certainly do on the podcast, and we certainly do as a business, that actually people are becoming more, you know, from the stats anyway, becoming more fearful of actually being able to be quite open about it. And what can we do to tackle that, to make sure that we can improve that moving forward?
That's it. So there's a lot of things companies do. I know we do it, but you've got mental health first aiders, you have an employee assistance programs, because I think, and businesses are good at doing this now, better certainly than they were, at recognising that it's being ill or pulling, you know, saying you've got a sickness or a day for sickness isn't about just physical health. It's about your mental health as well.
Absolutely.
And I know there's different companies that try and do things such as like mental health days where they can clock that in. Other companies look at stuff like unlimited annual leave, so there's no damage in you doing that. I think these things work or don't work to varying degrees and varying levels based on the company culture.
Right? It depends on your organisation and your structure and things as well, I think.
Yeah. So, I don't know, I thought it was a really interesting point to talk about that. It's very easy to joke about, Greg, did you see? Greg's not in today, but he did say yesterday, I'm feeling a bit sniffly, and then he was doing a few coughs, and now he's not in. It's like, but he'll be in tomorrow. And like everyone jokes that there's all these rumours or conspiracy theories why people might be pretending not to be in, or that big meeting that Simon was supposed to do. Suddenly he's
not feeling
he's not
well
great
enough
anymore. It wouldn't be safe for him to come in. It's easy to joke about.
Yeah.
But if you scratch the surface, actually, is there a real bigger problem? And is it an employer's problem rather than an employee's problem? Is it a fact that they don't feel comfortable with the culture? Is it that they don't feel like they've got a good work-life balance? Is it that they don't feel like the company's going to offer them good enough flexibility to support what might be a personal situation? So they've just said, it's easy to say I'm sick and I won't come in today. Or is there just is there bad communication practices? We talk about it in every episode. Communication. What can you do with your HR tech software? We talk about that enough. Or with your HR teams or your in-person processes. What can you do to make sure there is an open line to go, I don't feel comfortable today, I need to talk to you about this, and I can't come in? That's important. So, to round off this point, I was looking at a few other articles, and another thing that I thought we could talk about were things that we think businesses or HR departments could consider to reduce that uptake in people taking sickies or claiming sickness and absence when maybe they don't need to.
Yep.
Okay. So first step, of course, is review your sickness absence policy, because these things are only ever written or developed at a time when they feel like they're appropriate for what we need, but time's changing, awareness is increasing, maybe a company's focus towards maybe mental health or personal well-being is ramped up. Does your policy reflect that? As a result, is it very clear what a sickness and absence actually covers? So creating a sickness and absence policy is fundamental in reducing sickness absence rates by providing a clear framework for reporting, managing and recording sickness absences. Your policy will make sure that you're ensuring absence is managed, fair and consistent, and you're maintaining operational and service levels, which is obviously a business wants to make sure it can run. And you're establishing what is expected from your employees as well. So it goes back to that communication point.
I think that's an important one, because we're talking about people who may be using a sickness day as a cover up for something else, but for those that are genuinely sick, and unfortunately that does happen, it happens quite frequently, they are also going to want to have that reassurance that they're going to be supported during their absence. And it also makes those that are perhaps more inclined to utilise them for different reasons, shall we say, aware of that as well. So you've got something quite clear to use when discussing with them, what their current absence issues are. You can say, there's been a breach of the absence policy that we've got, and it makes that a little bit easier to manage.
The other thing, it can sound a bit daunting, but actually it's actually, I think, a really positive thing to do is introduce some kind of data or monitoring system that allows you to get a better sight of your people data and their people time. again, we talk about this probably till we're blue in the face at MHR, but that's because we know what we're talking about with this stuff. Looking at kind of people-centric, people-first platforms, where we utilize better our people data for holidays or for time spent working, or sickness or any form of absence. You can go into your system, you can log your absence, it can be approved by a manager. Equally, if you're off, that can be entered by your manager. And if you're collecting that data, if you're keeping that information, not spying on anyone, it's just creating a very fair account of how people are working, and you can start to pick up really important trends. So, for example, obviously, if you're ill, that's fine. It's never going to be a problem, is it? But what a business might want to do is see, well, if you're ill frequently or in a regular pattern, can that then prompt your manager to check in and make sure, are things okay? Was that a medical illness? Do you need support with anything? I can see this is increasing. Or it seems like you're taking, that odd Friday or Monday off sick impromptu. Is something going on? Are you disenfranchised with your work? Can we take this into a check-in to make sure? Are you just really unhappy with your job and you're just deciding you don't want to do a full week? If that's the case, how do we reframe that for you? How do we make you more enthused about your work?
And equally as well, for quite a niche part for our more service-based listeners, if there is a frequency in the type of illness that they're claiming, so for example, say in a service-based industry they're complaining of back pain, for example, this could actually be an indicator to the employer that there needs to be some changes to be made to ensure 100%, safety and safety of their employees. And without having that kind of written down and in place, and software systems such as the software that we provide can make that reporting really easy to manage as well. And it can be used as we've just said there, it can be used in a really positive way. It's not it's not draconian. It's supposed to be to improve processes and to improve the well-being of the employee as well.
Absolutely. And businesses run on what their people can do, and the people data behind it is hugely powerful as well. So just getting that into a system so you can report on just means you can utilize the talent you've got and how it's working.
Exactly.
So the last point as well they recommended, if you want to reduce the uptake on people pulling a sickie, is have a look at how you want to run return to work interviews. These are really helpful because if someone's had to go on for say you've got repeated going things on, you can utilize your HR function there to go, look, I've noticed you're taking all these on, let's have a meeting about it, let's conduct, are you okay, what's going on? But also if, for example, you've had a substantial illness or a substantial period of time where people have been off, it's really important that you set a process in where you kind of automate the process of, let's log in a return to work system. Let's make sure that you're having a sit down with us. You're telling us how you feel. Do you feel better? Should you be back? What do you need from us? Do you feel like you've got everything you need to do your job properly? So proactively following up absences will signal to the employee as well that their absence has been noted for a start, but also that we're aware of it and we want to make sure we're helping you when you're returning to work. So it's an opportunity to explore was the absence due to an illness or was it something else? Find out if the employee is fully recovered, as I've said, and consider if there's any reasonable adjustments that the company should make to welcome that person back and help them get back up to speed and feel comfortable with how they're working.
Yeah, and I think it's likely as well that level of kind of process and procedure that's in place when somebody's been off work for a significant period is more likely to deter those that are wanting to take off sickness for alternative reasons. Because it's being brought up in conversation and it's being kind of very transparent, and that will make it just that little bit harder to be able to sort of mask what you're doing, if you like. So yeah, I think that's a nice point to end on. That's super important to make sure that we're continuing to talk, and getting that information.
Nice. Cool. Okay, so that was the topic this week mainly, pulling a sickie. I used to be very creative when I was younger to do this. Don't do it anymore because I actually like my job. But I do think that's why I wanted to talk about it this week, is because as funny as it can seem to be, it looks like a bit of a pantomime. I do think people do it just because they're unhappy, right? So does that mean their job's working for them? Are they in the right place? Or does that mean that the business is doing what they need it to do, or they're not supporting? So it's always a good opportunity to reflect on if your people processes are right, or what you could bring in yourself to improve your employee experience, so they don't feel like that's something they have to do. Also, because I think technically, like most sickness, there's a certain entitlement before it's unpaid. You don't want to be wasting that, do you? If you are actually ill and you need that.
No, definitely not.
I don't have an email. Oh, I do. Sorry. Yeah. Right, we've got the producer segment in. Tom has emailed us. Okay, it's game time. He's going to do us a little quiz. Ooh. Have we heard of 2 truths and a lie? I think the idea is there's going to be 2 truths and a lie, and 2 rounds. So he's given me round 1.
Okay.
So I've got to decide from round 1 which ones are truths and which ones are lie, and I think these are about employees pretending to be ill.
Right. Okay.
These are reasons someone have said they're ill. So option 1 is an employee caught their uniform on fire by putting it in the microwave to dry. Right? That's 1. The other one is an employee had to take his pet turtle to visit an exotic animal clinic. He probably felt lonely. Yeah. And an employee forgot where they parked their car last night and had no way of getting to work.
Oh.
So
that's unfortunate.
What
do you reckon out of those?
I think someone who put their uniform on fire because he got caught in a microwave to dry it was stupid, but I believe someone's done that. That's stupid, but that's someone, fair. And I also think an employee forgot where they parked their car so they had nowhere to get in work is 100% legit. I know plenty of people who have done that. So I think the lie. So I think there are 2 legit reasons to not come into work. I don't agree with those reasonings. You're an idiot, but I believe that you're telling the truth.
Okay.
What I believe to be a lie is an employee had to take his pet turtle to visit the exotic animal clinic.
Wrong.
Oh.
So the lie is an employee forgot where they parked their car.
Really?
Yeah.
Well.
To be fair, look, I'm not here to condone anything, but I have lost my car in like a shopping centre car park and got very, very agitated about it. Turns out I was on the wrong floor.
I just felt it's easier to lose your car than it is a pet turtle.
Yeah.
But if you don't take it to the clinic, you probably will lose it. So fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then.
Right. So I've got a round now. Let's see if I can do any better. So, got 3 options again. 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
Round 2. An employee trained legs at the gym the day before and couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
An employee's coffee was too hot and they couldn't leave until it had cooled off. Oh, come on. An employee was at their office but fell asleep in the parking lot.
I love that. So what, they got to the office and then fell asleep and missed work?
When they got there and missed work.
How do you do that for like 8 hours?
That's a good nap. That's a solid nap.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie to you.
All right then. So what do you think is the lie?
Surely an employee's coffee was too hot.
Is that your final answer?
I think so. I mean, like, look, I'm not in the peak of my physical fitness right now, as you know. But I do know that when you train legs at the gym, it flipping hurts.
Yeah.
And I think we've all been there when we've come to work feeling a little bit tired.
Yeah,
so
but falling asleep throughout your whole day at work?
I mean, that might be a little bit excessive.
Yeah, okay.
No, so I'm going to go with the coffee.
Okay.
1.
I'm afraid you're wrong.
Am I?
Yeah, the lie was an employee trained their legs at the gym the day before and they couldn't get out of bed. That was a lie.
That's me just giving excuses for our little gym bods of the world.
That's a clever lie, though, because I think everyone who does go to the gym and feels the leg pain can empathise, so they get it. It's a reasonable scenario.
That's what I mean. I thought
that's why it's a clever lie.
True.
Whereas I thought taking your pet turtle to an exotic animal clinic was rubbish because I can't empathise with that.
You don't have your own exotic turtles?
No, it's just parrots. But yeah.
Anyway,
there you go. So this producer segment was signed off by Don't Stop Believing, Tom. There you go, Journey reference. And he's signed it off by Tom Flynn, the sickest guy.
Yeah. Yeah, likewise for mine. I'm not feeling that one this week, mate. Sorry.
No. Try harder next time, please. Or just don't bother coming in. On that note, if you've enjoyed the discussion of pulling a sickie and you thought this was sick, you should also follow us on social media and our website and listen to more. In fact,
ouch.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ouch.
I told you I'm not well, but at least I came in.
That was quite painful.
Yeah.
What I would like to end on before we go is one of our fantastic colleagues, Jamie Foster, is doing the Copper Trek in September. So that is for the charity Copperfield. We at MHR are working very hard to support her in raising funds for that. She does have a Just Giving page. We're going to pop that into the bio this week. Please, if you've got a spare couple of pounds, anything will, go really well towards that. So if you could donate, that would be flipping brilliant.
It's an amazing charity, and while you guys are sat there being lazy, pretending to be ill, I'm not very well, she's climbing a mountain. So, pull your finger out, make a donation.
I wondered where he was going with that.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Well, we've been Andy and Emma.
We have.
Yeah, I think we probably will be next week.
Yeah.
Until then, see you in a bit.
See you later.